and gentlemen, again, this is Ronnie Leggett. I'm the Director of Community Planning and Development, and I want to thank you all for taking part into what we're going to consider our tele-tutorial. With us today, we have Mr. Jay Grant, Pearl Peoples, Tom Ogunde, and also Barry Brown of our staff who will be joining us here today. This particular conference call is somewhat different than what we have done in the past. Today, what we tried to do at the initiation of Jay Grant of our staff is to put together a training mechanism that can be referenced not only today, but something that you can share and reference back to at a later date, as well as to try and utilize it as a training mechanism for your financial people or your program people or your changing of staff. In essence, it can be utilized as a train-the-trainer mechanism moving forward. So today, what we're trying to do, just so that you all are aware, is that we're going to record this respective conversation and this call so that we in turn can utilize it, as I stated, as a training mechanism moving forward. In the event that you feel that you do not want your question recorded, you can write down your question and save it at the end of our telecast here. Then we will let you know that the recording has ceased and desist, but yet and still we will take questions at the end of the recording so that we can ensure that we respond back to your respective questions. The purpose for us doing it this way, again, is basically to say, you know, we want to have something in place that you all can reference at any time and that will stand the test of time so that when people changes or staff turnover exists, or if you want to just have a refresher, you don't necessarily would have to wait to get with your rep. You can reference this particular telecast. And Jay will give you more information as to how you'll be able to retrieve that information once he gets started. Today is the one tele-tutorial that we're going to entitle Financial Management. It's basically going to address financial vouchers, fund accounting, random voucher sampling, vouchers submitted after grant terms has expired, lot issues, match requirements, ineligible activities, quarterly drawdowns, budget line item changes, and then also any questions that you all may have regarding any of those respective topics. Those too will be recorded in our broadcast that will be archived and for you all to reference at a later time and date. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. This is an initiative that Jay has thought of and created, and we definitely would like to applaud him for his innovative thought process and coming up with this game plan. If you all have any objections to this, by all means, just write down your questions and your comments, and then in turn, at the end of the recording, we'll be more than happy to address anything at that particular time after the recording has ceased and desist. So without further ado, I'm going to now turn this over to Mr. Jay Grant of our staff, and he'll talk to you about it in more detail as to where we're going and also commence with the agenda that has been previously sent to your attention. So without further ado, Mr. Jay Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Leggett, and good morning, everyone. We have here Mr. Tom Ogunde, Ms. Pearl Peoples, and myself. We will be presenting to you the material that was discussed a moment ago. And very briefly, just to summarize what this financial management telecast will be about, it's really for the purpose of getting everyone on the same page. It's not to penalize anyone. It's not to put anyone on the spot, and that is not any of our intentions. But again, as we've spoken earlier in the year, our focus this year is on financial management, and by the end of the year, hopefully we're all on the same page and we're all moving forward smoothly. And so we'll get right into the package that was sent to you yesterday and in previous emails. This package begins with financial voucher supporting documentation. Now essentially, in your supporting documentation, whether it's reviewed by HUD or whether it's just in your files, we would expect that there are three main components. One, voucher request form. Two, a transaction detail summary. And three, actual invoices. And Pearl will begin with talking about the voucher request form.
Thanks, Jay. Good morning, everyone. The LOX VRS request voucher form, otherwise known as the HUD form 275-3A. A fileable link to the form is found in the PDF package for this call. A copy of the form is also found on page 2 of your package. This form is important because it standardized the summarization of a drawdown request. It provides the total dollar amount to be drawn down and breaks it down by line item. When HUD reviews vouchers that are not accompanied by the summary, it's not very clear as to what the grantee intended to precisely draw down. Moving forward, we expect to see all grantees utilizing the form to accompany each voucher request. Tom?
I will address transaction detail summary. It's also found in your attachments. As Paul said, moving forward, we expect that each grantee will maintain transaction detail summary for each voucher request. The summary must clearly display the totals to be drawn down from each line item, and also display each item as expense that adds up to respective subtotals. At a minimum, you should have at least name of the vendor, date of a transaction, amount incurred, and a memo attached to the description for the various things you're submitting expenses for. This way, when HUD reviews your expenses, we know exactly what invoices to look for and exactly what your totals are.
A question was asked regarding rolling match. Now, rolling match is essentially keeping track of your match documentation throughout the course of the grant term. And in the transaction detail summary, we would like to see that rolling match documented. And so to answer the question during the tele-tutorial, which was along the lines of, can that be added to the transaction detail summary? Yes, we have now added that. So in the documentation that went along with the meeting minutes, you will see that there is now a column for rolling match. And then the third component of the voucher request documentation is actual invoices, receipts, purchase orders that will substantiate your voucher request. As always, each grantee must support every voucher request with a proof that the expenses that are to be covered. Thus, the source documentation of expenses is necessary, and this not only includes invoices and receipts, but of course it also includes timesheets for salary hours that are paid under the grant. Now, salaries must be supported by actual hours worked and not percentages. Specific language speaking to this can be found in the pertinent O&B circular and is also listed in the package that was emailed to you. Also, a sample timesheet is attached to the package, and if you need an Excel copy of the timesheet, please feel free to contact your CPD representative. You can utilize the sample as your own timesheet if you don't have one already. Keeping along the lines of timesheets, another question was asked regarding how detailed must timesheets be. Timesheets must break down the number of hours spent per day working on a specific SHP grant, and even more specifically, a specific SHP line item. Now, if we're talking about Shelter Plus Care, they must document, of course, the administrative hours that the individual employee has worked. Additionally, it is helpful if your timesheets break down the number of hours spent in total throughout the day, which may include other programs. Whether or not your organization decides to write other or get more specific and write down specific program names, for instance, CDBG, home, local grant funding, state grant funding, etc. We encourage you to be as specific as possible with your time, but most importantly, we are concerned that you document the CoC hours spent, and that correlates with the actual payment of salary. Are timesheets required for administrative dollars? The answer, of course, is yes. any salary payment coming from the CoC programs requires that you document your salary by timesheets. And please see your CPD representative for further information regarding this, but this is an OMB circular requirement, and that is cited in the Code of Federal Regulations pertaining to the programs. So the answer is yes. Whether a narrative is necessary for supporting documentation for timesheets. No, that is not necessary. However, that would be helpful, and we encourage you to continue to do so if your organization maintains such documentation. Lastly, it is important, especially for large vouchers, to organize your receipts and other source documentation in logical categories. For example, chronological order, and also, for example, by line item. This will help HUD to expeditiously review. If you get to a point where we have to review a final voucher after the grant has expired, you want us to be able to review that as quickly as possible. An unorganized submission or a submission in a different format might actually impede the review process and ultimately could delay funding from being reimbursed to your organization. A question was asked: do grantees with supportive services only grants still need to document all of their receipts and invoices? And the answer is certainly yes. Additionally, a question was asked: are security deposits receipts required? Again, the answer is yes. You want to always maintain all of your supporting documentation, including receipts. He asked what kind of documentation is necessary to support monthly lease expenses. To answer that question, not only is the actual lease necessary in the documentation, HUD wants to see proof of actual payment. So supporting a voucher request should be copies of checks, invoices, whatever supports that payment that actually went to a landlord or actually went to some kind of property management company. A lease on its own is not enough to show that a payment actually went through. A question was asked regarding allocation of bills, and in particular, how can a grantee, or how should a grantee allocate a bill that covers multiple programs? For instance, you may have a Virginia Dominion Power bill that a portion of it pays for an SHP program, and a portion of it pays for some other aspect of your organization. Simply put, we expect in the documentation that if it's 30% of that bill that goes towards the SHP program, you would just document on the bill itself 30%, and then that would be the amount that would correlate with the drawdown.